Train to race. Don't just train to train. This is one of the nuggets that I took away from my interview with Enoch Nadler, running coach, former University of Florida distance runner, and two-time qualifier for the Olympic marathon trials. If you're a runner, or any kind of athlete for that matter, and you like to push yourself to achieve your absolute best, then this episode is for you. We talk about finding balance, having humility and self-awareness, mental discipline, and some others. Listen also for Enoch's challenge he offers to help you with summer training. Here we go. This is the Athlete for Life podcast, the show devoted to helping you achieve and maintain health and high performance for a lifetime of athletic fulfillment. Let's start the show. All right, I'm here with Enoch Nadler, a running coach, former University of Florida track athlete, and the owner of Team Florida Track Club here in Gainesville, Florida. So Enoch is a pretty awesome dude because he's one of those rare guys that kind of can perform at a super high level, but he can also teach and he can also coach at an extremely high level as well. I've seen a lot of the stuff that he's done with his athletes, and the results that he gets not only for himself but for his athletes is pretty remarkable. Just a little bit about him and why I feel that he's an important guy to have on this podcast is because he's done all of the things that I kind of promote in terms of staying healthy and performing at a high level and finding that balance between the two. So just a little bit of background about him. He's extremely fast. He's got a 14:05 PR for a 5K, which I watched the Facebook live feed on that, and that was pretty remarkable. He probably could have gone sub 14 had he not had to lead at least half of that race. So that was pretty impressive. He's also qualified for the 2016. Was it also the 2012?
Qualified for both. Yeah, 2016 and 2020.
2016 and 2020 Olympic marathon trials. Which is obviously not an easy feat to achieve. And his marathon PR, if I have this correctly, is 2:18:17. So 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 17 seconds. That is a 5 minute and 16 second pace. Just for a little reference, guys, my PR for a 1 mile is 5 minutes and 13 seconds. So he's running 26.2 at the same pace that I am running 1. So, Enoch, I just want to welcome you and thank you for coming on the podcast. I want you to just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, and I already gave a little bit, but fill in some of the blanks that I may have missed.
Perfect. Well, thanks for the very generous and great introduction. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Justin. Grew up local, started running like many people did to get in shape for soccer. I think a lot of younger runners have a similar kind of story with that. They start running for soccer and then find out that they enjoy it, they love it, they have a talent for it. And in my case, I ended up quitting soccer in high school to focus on running. And that's where, kind of my passion was and my talent was, and I just really found a love for it at a young age. I actually started coaching in 9th grade, basically. Wow. At my high school, right down the road in Keystone Heights. It's not a real running mecca. Yeah. So, there's kind of just a new coach every year. And kind of whoever would step up. And so basically I took it upon myself to start learning, to start, to one, help myself, but also to help my teammates, to help everyone around me. And so it was kind of a coaching out of necessity type thing. But ended up, really finding a love for that as well, having the team out to my house for long runs during the summer, training together, going to running camps, things like that. Went on, like you mentioned, to run for the University of Florida, continued to learn there, continued to coach. coached some local high school guys. Jeremy Krishoni, who's a local product out of Interlochen, set the state record, won a few state championships. So kind of found that, success early in not only running, but also in coaching. And then continued, like I said, at UF, and then afterwards kind of picked up coaching more for fun as I trained at a high level out in Dallas for a few years, and that's where I qualified for the Olympic trials the first time around, and that was actually through the half marathon. I qualified for the trials, and then I actually took a big travel sabbatical. My wife and I traveled for about a year and a half living abroad, stepped back from serious running, from serious training, and then moved back around, came back to Gainesville a couple years ago now, and started Team Florida Track Club, dove into coaching, running full time. And that marathon here is actually my debut in the marathon. That was my first marathon. I ran in December, and got a couple more scheduled coming up. I plan to run Boston in April of next year. And then the Olympic trials are actually going to be in Atlanta in 2020. So pretty excited about that. Be able to have the team come up, have family, friends come up and support me. So, definitely excited to be on the podcast to share my passion for, like you said, staying healthy. I think that's really the key to being, an elite level athlete. And that's for everyone. Everyone can be an elite level athlete. It's getting your body to the best it can be is what I view as being elite. It's getting the most out of what you're given, and really the key to that is being healthy. So I look forward to discussing that with you today and kind of sharing some of my secrets that go along with that. And
I know that I've seen from a lot of your athletes the stuff that you post on Facebook about the athletes that are achieving certain milestones and things of that sort. People that are starting out running 29-minute 5Ks and bringing that all the way down to 24 minutes, and people even getting, just it's incredible what you're able to help people to achieve. And I want to talk just for a second, because I think that the Florida Track Club is a name that probably a lot of people recognize. Team Florida Track Club is different.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
So give us a little bit of background about how Team Florida Track Club came out of Florida Track Club.
So when I actually got my start with the Florida Track Club, almost 2 decades ago now. The Florida Track Club has been around for 50 plus years. Started back in the day with Frank Shorter and some of the top distance runners in the U.S. were training here in Gainesville, and formed the Florida Track Club as their kind of vehicle as they were training towards the Olympics. And it was a club that included, even though these were the best runners in the country, they encouraged people to come to their practices of all levels, to the community to come out. And it was really, and this is obviously me speaking from what I've heard. I wasn't around, but that was kind of what the Florida Track Club was about. And so I got my start, like I said, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I ran the Melon Run in 2000 for the first time. And so I was part of the Florida Track Club, not heavily involved since I was out in Keystone, but it was something, I was aware of. So when I came back to town 2.5 years ago, I, got back involved with the Florida Track Club, ran a couple of the races, and then they were actually looking to start a pilot coaching program right around the time I was looking to get back into it. So myself and Eddie Garcia, another University of Florida runner, we took that upon ourselves, started a pilot program training for the Tom Walker with them, and did it for 3.5 months, had some great success. We had about 20, 25 runners that were training towards that. And basically, it was kind of worked out perfect because it was a chance for me to get in to experience the group coaching at all levels. I'd worked with a lot of high level runners, a lot of high level high school runners, post collegiate elites, things like that. But work with runners, all ages, all abilities. Really fell in love with that, with the group, and kind of that same, just because you've never run before or you don't have a background, that you can't get the most out of yourself and push yourself to those fast times. So doing that with the Florida Track Club, I realized it was something, there was a need for it in the community. I had a passion for it. So I presented to the Florida Track Club board that I needed to make this something bigger. And that's where Team Florida Track Club was born. The Florida Track Club is a nonprofit mostly all run by volunteers. They didn't have the capacity to launch a full-scale coaching, running group that's meeting multiple times a week, that has a paid head coach.
Right.
The pilot program was getting paid a couple $100 a month.
Yeah.
Which, obviously you can't do that full time on that. So I needed to launch a full time thing. So I presented to the board. They approved it. And that's where Team Florida Track Club was born. And so essentially we're two separate organizations, but with a similar vision. Our vision is to bring people together to run of all levels, and just bring the community together and have that place. So it's been a great balance. It's been a great partnership. I serve on the board of the Florida Track Club as well as a volunteer board director. I've been doing that for 2 years this November. So it's been a great relationship, continuing to build the community here in Gainesville, and hopefully kind of bring back what the Florida Track Club was about in the beginning, was elites and everyone, from the fastest runners, we have people training to qualify for the Olympic trials on our team, all the way down to just anybody that wants to run with us. You're welcome to get out on the track and be inspired by, really fast runners.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, like I said, I've seen some of the results that have come out of this. Some of the people that are training for Boston or training for even just their local 5Ks that we have here, and crushing them. And to be honest, I mean, people that they'll post on Facebook, because I follow you on Facebook all the time, and they're posting, things like, I never thought that I would be able to achieve something like that, and that's what you're doing for people, and it's really, really incredible. So just a little bit more about Team Florida Track Club. How many people do you have on the team, both locally, and you also have an online?
Correct. Yeah. So currently we have, people cycle through. Our membership is monthly, so people can sign up for, sometimes they come up for a couple months to train for a specific race or a specific event or things like that, or a goal. And then we do have a lot of our founding members from our first pilot program that've been with us for coming up on 2 years in August. Mm-hmm. So right now, we currently have a little over 100 people here, maybe 100, 110 people locally that are here in Gainesville, Alachua County. And then we have an additional maybe 30-ish. We've got about 135 active members currently in the group that are training under my guidance and with the team. And that includes a lot of local high school kids that are in this area, and also Jacksonville and kind of surrounding areas. And I really, I enjoy coaching everyone, but I have a real, soft spot for those kids, because I kind of was in the place that they were in. A lot of them are from smaller towns, don't have a lot of guidance, and so bringing them into the fold and giving them what I kind of needed as a kid and got from different coaches and learned from different coaches. So we have runners all around the U.S. That train with us: Texas, Wisconsin, Oklahoma. Kind of just all over. Anyone that's looking to be a part of Team Florida Track Club and training our guidance. And a lot of them will meet us for big races. We have a big group going to run the Houston Marathon in January. And then we've got maybe 15 to 20 people that are going to be doing Boston in April as well. So a lot of times those runners will kind of train from afar and then meet us for those big events, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. The community that you guys have formed is pretty incredible. I see every Saturday morning, I see the long run picture that you guys post, and there are at times 30 people or so that are there doing a long run, and I know that there are dedicated people getting up and training on Tuesday and Thursday mornings.
5:50 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Exactly. Exactly. So you're in the dark and running. So I know that the community is really, really strong there. But let's get into a little bit more of the topic of what I want to talk about today. So training at such a high level, what have you done or are you doing that essentially ensures that you maintain your high performance while at the same time staying healthy? If there are some tricks, or is it just straight up you have to put in the work to make it happen?
I think it's a balance between the two. Definitely putting in the work, being patient, things like that make a big difference. But it's also there are some important things that you have to have. It's not just go out, work hard, and your body eventually will adapt and be healthy. You do have to do other things along the way to get your body ready to be able to handle the work that you want to be able to do to run well. So things like proper nutrition, hydration, stretching, proper warm-up and cool-down protocols, self-care, seeing massage therapists, physical therapists, if something is, needs attention, not ignoring things and just training through pain that eventually becomes worse, things like that. So these are definitely things I encourage, and also things I practice.
Yeah.
Because to get the most out of your body, it's not how hard you can push yourself, it's how well you can stay healthy and put big chunks of work together without having to take force breaks. Breaks are important. Rest is very important. Without rest, you're never going to make gains, but it needs to be planned rest in a smart way, as opposed to train really hard for a few months. Oh, I'm getting really close to where I need to be, and then your body breaks down.
Okay.
And a lot of people fight that cycle. So that's a big thing I preach and a big thing I practice.
Yeah.
I'm very proud that in my 5 or 6 years of really serious training post-collegiate, I've run some years where it's an ebb and a flow, which I think is important as well,
Mm-hmm.
but really serious running where I've maybe missed a handful of runs and I'm willing to miss a run if I need to for my body. But the fact that I've only had to miss a handful of runs really speaks to, I think, what I kind of am focusing on in my approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and you can probably speak to this a little bit too, is having a bigger kind of overarching goal of what you want to achieve can kind of help you to see the importance of, okay, I don't have it today. I need to have the awareness to say, okay, I don't have it. I need to step back. I need to, cut back the mileage, or I need to, just sit out today and go get my massage, or go get, do something different, and maybe just stretch that day or something like that.
For sure.
I think it takes a lot of that kind of self-awareness.
Yeah. And some discipline to be able to stop yourself and be real with yourself. Yeah. And I think, even myself training what I consider to be a high level, ultimately we're doing this to be healthy, to feel good, for our mental sanity, and being injured doesn't help with any of that.
Not at all.
So what I like to look at it is we're training and we're exercising for life, but with a sport like running, we all have the fortunate opportunity that we're able to compete, because it's a very accessible sport to compete in. There's road races all the time. There's ways to test yourself. And so I think a really healthy approach to running, and I would say is a big thing our group focuses on, is train to race. Don't just train to train. If you're just focusing on train to train, you're going to say, how hard can I push myself today? And if you're just pushing yourself to the max every day, just training to train your body as hard as you can every day, you're going to break down. If you're training with a goal in mind, with a race in mind, then that allows you to say, the purpose of today is actually to run easy. It's a recovery run, like they like to call them, a recovery workout. And that is, part of the bigger picture, but on a daily basis, it gives you that today's not supposed to be a max effort, and then there are times where it is supposed to be you're training it. And so that train to race mentality, as opposed to just how many miles can I gut out this week, or how many miles can I put in this month. Instead, that bigger plan allows you to really have something that's set up to keep you healthy and keep you going.
Oh, that's so good, because I know that when I was in high school, I was running cross country, and I always had this goal of going sub 18 for a 5K, and I never got there. And I think it was because every workout for me was go as hard as you can and do as much as you can. The hardest thing for me was when my coach would say, all right, 5 miles easy. It's like, what? 5 miles is easy as is. Why do I need to go easier? So of course I'm a dumb high school kid. I don't know that. So I think I really left a lot on the table when I was in high school. That I think if I were to start training significantly more intelligently now, I bet I could still go sub 18 now. If I really put in the effort and probably worked with you too. So I know I've been wanting to get out there with you, but 6 a.m. is early, man. It is early. All right. So yeah. And how do you get people to buy into that though? How do you get people to say, okay, yeah, I will listen to you when you tell me to go really easy today, even though I have this energy to burn. Why don't I just burn it, and shouldn't that help me get better or faster? Or how do you get people to buy into this?
So I think first off, it's a balance. People do want to be challenged on either a daily or a weekly or a monthly. People want to have that challenge, and I think it's part of our culture. Is like if you're not sweating super hard or go home, that whole mentality is kind of ingrained in our culture, and I think in our fitness culture. And I don't think it's a sustainable mentality. I don't think it's all, I think you need some of that hard-nosed mentality, but like you were just saying, you need to be able to run easy. You need to be able to go, on your easy days, on your recovery days, to where you're not just training super hard for a week, and then you literally have to sit in bed and rest for a week because either your body's broken down or you're sick or you're run down. So basically, to get people to buy into that, one, doing it myself, and them seeing the results there, and then the team, that community of seeing other people say, no, trust me, I've gone through this. Running easier really does work. Seeing the results definitely helps, but it really depends on the individual. Some people say, nope, I've got it. I'm listening to the coach. Other people, they'll say, okay, I understand. And then next thing you know, they're hammering the easy run, and so it's just checking in with them, being patient with them, and saying, look, just trust the process, slow down, run easier. There are specific hard days where you will be able to challenge and push yourself, and it just depends on the personality of the individual, kind of what they need. Some people need a lot more encouragement on backing it down. And then other people need encouragement to push themselves. So it's really finding what each individual athlete needs. And then as they start to see the results, then they usually buy into it.
Yeah. But it takes a period of
adjustment for sure. Yeah.
It's adjustment. It's like reluctant agreement.
Yeah.
And then
change is hard. Change is hard for people. So
it really is. It really is. But once they start to see some of those results, then it's like,
feeling
okay,
better.
I'm there. I'm ready. Let's do this, and I'm all in. So that's awesome. I see that with my patients as well. Whenever I'm treating people as a PT, they say, well, no pain, no gain, right? And I was like, no, not at all. So the goal of this is to be able to move your arm or your foot or whatever in this certain direction through this certain motion. It's not to crank it as hard as you can.
Correct.
For no particular reason. So you gotta kind of get that buy-in, at least by maybe showing them a quick win. How can you show people kind of a quick win too, for those people that are maybe a little less willing to listen at least early on?
With running, it's a little tricky in that a quick win's obviously relative. It could be a month, it could be a week. But to get people to really, I think usually it takes a week or two. If they slow down on those easy runs and then they realize that on the harder days they actually feel faster and they feel easier, that's where they start to feel it. Or if they do an easy run and afterwards they don't feel sore, they don't feel tired, so then they are ready for the hard track workout or the hill workout we have planned the following day, or the big long run or the race coming up. So I wouldn't say there's like an instant like aha, but it people usually kind of catch on quite quickly. Other people, I'm still working on them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. Now, one person I present before I do the interview. I present the fact that I'm interviewing my guests in my Facebook group and just on my Facebook page, and one of the questions that came in once I announced that I was going to be interviewing you was kind of what's the role that mental toughness plays in training and racing. Now, I could kind of go in a couple different directions with this, because it could be mentally difficult for somebody to dial back.
Correct.
And it can also be mentally difficult for somebody to push hard through.
Yeah. And maybe the difference would be mental discipline as opposed to toughness.
I think that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, so first off, mental discipline, I think, can be learned through just following a plan, sticking to a plan that's laid out. And that can be a plan that's laid out by, a coach, by a physical therapist, or even a plan that you lay out for yourself. Sometimes the plans you lay out for yourself are even tougher to stick to mentally. So I think running or any athletic pursuit, and really any serious pursuit in life, takes some type of mental discipline. Mm-hmm. Finding the discipline to stick to the plan, stick to the routine, and try not to deviate too much from what you set out when you had the bigger picture in mind. A lot of people will say, oh, I just go out and run by feel all the time. That's, not a way to stick to a real plan, because either some people, if you're just running by feel, maybe you'll just take it too easy on yourself, or you'll take it, or some people feel like, I'm feeling great, even when you're not always being honest with yourself. Yeah. Usually you'll be more honest when you take a step back, or you have someone else helping you look over that plan. So developing mental discipline, I think, is really important, and it actually ties in to mental toughness. And I think more we think of mental toughness for key workouts, for big workouts and things like that, but also in competition, when the pressure's on, when you're really trying to get the most out of your body. And really they tie in with each other. I think by having mental discipline and sticking to a plan, you develop mental toughness throughout the training, showing up, like you said, 6 a.m., getting up early, working hard. Those are the things that make it where when you show up to an event, you have the mental toughness because you've made the sacrifices. You put in the work. And that translates into, one, a lot less self-doubt, because you're ready, you've gone through the training, you trust the process, you've listened all the way through, you've followed your plan. And coming in with that confidence is always, when I know personally I bring the most mental toughness to an event, because you're not, oh man, that guy looks like he's trained a lot more than me. Your body's prepared. You're where you need to be. And then when you line up, when you race or you compete or do whatever event, you play in a sporting game or something like that, that physically you're prepared, mentally you've made the sacrifices, and then you're a lot less likely to need to dig deep mentally because you're already in that zone. But of course, there are points where you do need to employ some mental toughness and find that focus. I think what's really important for running in specific is to kind of have a plan mentally before you go into an event. And really, any event, being prepared for, there's some different things you need to prepare for, but less specific, I should say more general, is to have a calm approach early on, not to get overly excited early on, not to use up too much, of your energy early, staying calm, staying relaxed, sticking to your plan, sticking to your focus really helps to keep yourself mentally in the zone. Mm-hmm. And then later in the race or, in a game where you need to dig deep, that's where you can find that mental toughness because you've saved it up. Yeah. If you just show up to a game amped up, ready to hit it, go, one, you're a lot less likely to stick to your plan because you're not thinking clearly, but two, you're using up a lot of that juice, a lot of that energy you have, a lot of your endorphins. So instead, learn that. And a great way to learn it is either through competition or in practice. Bring a similar approach. How you practice is how you'll compete. So if you bring that approach to key workouts, to big runs, where you're going to remain calm, and then later, you use that energy, really goes a long way.
Yeah, this was my problem forever was pacing. Going into a competition, when I was running cross country in high school, my ideal pace, what I wanted to hit every mile to go sub 18, it had to be, somewhere around 5:50 or something like that to go sub 18 for a 5K. And so I knew what I needed to hit, but I never had the ability to hold myself back early on. I had that that competitive, like I gotta get an edge early, and then just try and hold on, and I always overdid it.
Yep.
And so it was always shoot out of the gate at 5:35, 5:40.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the race, I'm running 6:10, 6:15, and I couldn't ever bring it home.
Yep.
So having that plan early on and the discipline to carry out the plan,
to execute the plan all the way through. And early on, it's often the hard part. Holding yourself back and learning to race smart and not just run as hard as you can. And generally, it's hard in a high school race in particular because a lot of other people have the same issue.
Yeah.
So kids are getting out hard. So you're like, why am I going to run way behind these guys that I think I should be faster to? So letting go of that ego, running your own race.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes time to learn and doing that in practices. Maybe there's some other person that goes out really hard, starts the practices hard, doesn't even finish them, but your ego, sometimes you're like, oh, I got to stick with that person because, I beat them in a race or whatever. Instead, letting that go, sort of practicing to race instead of just practicing to get out there and hammer it and race people in practice.
Yeah, I think ego is a big thing for, a lot of people that have difficulty with staying healthy.
Yes.
For a long period of time. They feel like I should be able to do this.
And be able to push through or be able to get through it. Yeah. And really that usually just leads to misery.
Yeah.
So
pretty much. So that's a massive thing. Now I wanted to talk a little bit here about nutrition, the importance that it plays, nutrition and hydration, the importance that plays in performance. Again, I kind of go back to my own example. As a high school kid, I ate junk. I drank a little bit of water every now and then when I was thirsty. How important is that to high performance and your health?
So I would say in any one, competition or day, of training or something like that, you can get away with not maybe fueling as best as you should. And kids, especially the younger you are, the more talented are, and I deal with this a lot with the high school kids, is, they're like, oh, I'm just eating chicken nuggets for lunch every day. And, but I feel pretty good. I'm like, well, what about this workout where you didn't feel good? Or but on a daily basis, you may not notice it as much, but what's going to happen is your body's going to break down. You're not going to be able to handle the same training load. You're more likely to get sick. You're more likely to just be fatigued. And generally what happens is people just kind of get into a funk. They don't even realize that they're not feeling as well as they should. People, we're all kind of living in our own reality in a sense of what feels normal, what feels natural. And some people may be chronically dehydrated and they just think that's normal to feel, I can't run for this long or I can't exercise because I get lightheaded. So what I try to tell people is it really does make a difference. Stick to these things and then you'll really notice. So I'd like to lay out a challenge for you guys, anyone that's listening. It's summer right now. And I'll dive back in a little bit with the nutrition side, but the hydration side, I think is the simplest and easiest thing to implement that will make the biggest change. And what I encourage all my runners and what I practice personally is to drink at least half your body weight in ounces every day of water. Is best. I really don't encourage drinking a lot of sports drinks or anything like that unless you're really going through a lot of like a strenuous workout and then following it up with that, but not just drinking sports drinks throughout the day. So half your body weight in ounces plus another 20s on the conservative side, maybe closer to 30 ounces for every hour exercise. So say you weigh, 160 pounds. That means you need your baseline of 80 ounces. You exercise for another hour. That brings you to at least 100 ounces a day. And so what I want to challenge you to do is for over a 7-day span, track. When you wake up in the morning, have a bottle, say it's 20 ounces. You have to get through that five times throughout the day. So you can either set an alarm on your phone that goes off, every 3 hours or whatever it is. Or a good way to do it is you put some rubber bands on your arm. Say, you have 5, you need to get through 5 rubber bands on your hand. That'll remind you by looking at them. You'll see them. Oh, I've still got 4 to go or 3 to go. Every time you finish a bottle, move a rubber band from your wrist to the water bottle and then just do that for 7 days. If you get into a habit of doing it and you start to feel the benefits, you're a lot more likely to follow through with it. And if you're drinking things like coffee or some alcohol, things that kind of diuretic that clear you out, then you need to add in a little bit more. So just be kind of conscious, make sure you're getting enough hydration. That's really huge. For just mentally being aware at work, or just staying awake, managing appetite. There's so many benefits of hydration, and it's pretty much free, so it's an easy thing to do. So I would encourage you to do that. But getting back to kind of the performance side of it, I really try to talk to my athletes about, one, fueling properly before a workout, making sure you have energy going in, and then also recovery on the other side. Getting some protein in within 30 minutes, 15 grams more or less is pretty good around that. Getting in some good protein, hydrating. Right now when I go out for a run, I lose about 3 pounds of water, on one run. So replacing that either during, if it's a longer run, or immediately after, so you can start to recover. That's really, really important. And then just making smart choices. I think, people will often ask me, like, do you train so that to kind of control, so you can do unhealthy things, to control your weight or do things. And I say, honestly, it's a balance. Don't be afraid to, eat something that's unhealthy from time to time. But what I really like about being motivated and training to compete at a high level, and that's anybody's high level, it's what your own high level is it encourages you to make those right choices because it's tangible. You're like, I'm making this, smart choice, and I'm choosing to do this because I know it's going to help with running faster or feeling better for tomorrow's run, or, being able to sleep better because I'm not going to eat ice cream at 10 o'clock at night. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't eat ice cream, but you might not want to eat it right before bed. Okay. So finding that balance that works with your training, with your goals, with your lifestyle really makes a big difference.
No, that's good. I definitely could dial in my nutrition. I could dial in all that kind of stuff. But I do thank you for giving me permission to have my Boston cream donut every now and then. So
for sure.
I appreciate that. Well, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover with you today, Enoch. I really do appreciate you coming on the show with me. Again, guys, that challenge that he put out for you guys: 7 days, half your body weight in ounces of water, plus 20 to 30 ounces per hour of exercise that you do. So 7 days. Just try it for 7 days. And he gave you a couple of things that you can do to cue you, whether it's an alarm on your phone or it's the rubber band kind of cue that you've got on your wrist that you move over to your water bottle after you finish one. I think that's going to go a long way for you guys. I think I'm going to jump on that challenge as well because I know I could do much better at that too. But Enoch, I really want to thank you for coming on, and I appreciate everything that you have to offer for your athletes and for the people that are listening here.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, man. Have a good one.
Thanks.
I want to thank Enoch Nadler again for what he's doing for the running community here in Gainesville and for some others around the country. I didn't even get to talk about how encouraging he is with his athletes and those who aren't his athletes. So I participated about a month ago in a track meet that Enoch and Team FTC put on. I had only met Enoch once or twice prior to this meet, but he was cheering me on as if I was one of his own athletes. I can't imagine how his paying customers must feel. Thanks again, Enoch, for all you do, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.